Good evening. Welcome to Choices Podcast at choicespodcastofficial.com. We love the fact that you're with us tonight. We're all about making choices in a personal, business, and professional part of our life. Please go to choicespodcastofficial.com and subscribe with us. I'm learning about that. I am not a social media expert, but I do know how to ask for business. I'm asking for you to like us, follow us, subscribe with us, whatever it is, and share us with your friends. We're doing a show tonight on recap of our first 20 shows, and we're going to focus in on our guests and what we took away from them because they were so awesome. We're learning as we go, and the cool part about this thing is not only do I get to hang out with Carcass and Reverend, we learn as we go. We get to learn too.
That's
so meet our co-host Carcass John.
Hey, and there's a little different look for you there, Brett. You're sporting the cowboy hat, and you're against the nature's background there.
Dude.
Yeah, you are looking a little rough around the edges there, brother.
Yeah. Hey, I don't mind telling y'all, it's 72 degrees here.
Oh,
I'm tired of that.
It's 102 here today in Dallas-Fort Worth.
You can have it. I'm thinking about staying here another week.
It was a cold front because yesterday it was 109 at 4 o'clock. So
yeah, I think it's still over 100 out there.
It is. I'm looking at my computer. It says 101 degrees. That's insanity. At least it's a little drier, but 72, I could take that all day long. That is San Diego perfect weather temperature right there.
Yeah, no doubt.
But you're not. You're somewhere out east, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm at Virginia Beach.
Okay, there you go.
Denny worked me, man. Denny works me. I'm like, that's the reason I got the hat on. Maybe he won't notice me. And I haven't shaved.
Well, this is as close as I get. It's the Mustangs,
That's crazy. No SMU cuffs. Go Tech. Go Tech.
No, go BYU. Are you kidding me? We're gonna see the Mustangs on the 6th, Denny. Well, maybe I'll see you there.
Hey, let's do it.
Carcass, I'm holding you to bring Steve Young on the show.
Let me see what I can do.
Okay, good. Throw a lyric at us.
Throw a lyric? Well, and boy, if this isn't random and last second, because I've got a whole lot working, because guess what? We're less than 2 weeks from game time, Brett.
Oh,
so try that one on for size. I'm going to have a house full of people here next Thursday and the following Saturday, the 31st of August, because it's already the 20th. And Danny, maybe you can explain what's happened to the space-time continuum, but it is moving at a high rate of speed.
I agree.
And
I'm still back in February.
Yeah. And you know what? Someone asked me today, are you nervous? No, I'm not nervous. I'm excited. Shouldn't I be excited about a wedding?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've learned that weddings and funerals are kind of the same. They're not for the people that are actually involved. They're for the friends and family and everyone else in the periphery. So anyway, it's going to be a fun event. My parents are coming into town. I have aunts, uncles, cousins, friends from all over the world. It'll be awesome. But so I put this together last minute, but you know what? It fits what we're talking about in making good choices and in our kind of our year in review. This is a song by Christina Aguilera, and we can battle whether she's a better singer than Jewel or not at a later date. But this is a song called Reflections, and here's the first verse. Look at me. You may think you see who I really am, but you'll never really know me. Every day, it's as if I play a part. Now I see if I wear a mask, I can fool the world, but I cannot fool my heart. How about that? Is that too deep?
That's real deep.
I was just telling somebody today, I said, if you can't look in the mirror and like what you see, then there's a real problem. And you can fool the world. I think it's easy to fool the world because people don't unless they really truly know you. Now I know Brett knows me enough to where he can say, "Carcass, what's wrong?" or "Carcass, what's going on?" Because you seem extra happy today. But that's because we've known each other for better part of 20 years.
Yeah.
But so anyway, I never thought I'd quote a Christina Aguilera song, but there I just did it. And you know what? I think it fits.
Dude, she's got some pipes. I don't care what they say. She's got some pipes.
She surely does. But you can't fool the heart, can you?
But I'll tell you, Jewel does too.
Okay, here we go.
About Jewel. You never even listen to Jewel.
You know, I'm going to have to switch from Carcass John to Big John McCarthy and say, okay, Denny, are you ready? I want a clean fight. We talked about it in the locker room. Brett, Brutal Brett, touch gloves if you want to and come out swinging. Anyway.
Hey, listen.
Well, I'm probably over my head.
Hey, look, guys, we've done 20 shows. We're learning as we go. We're doing great. We're growing slowly, which is what we want to do. We got great people listening. We're making difference in people's lives. I've had a few people call me that was really, really cool. After Sheila Fayeron was on, remember she wrote Life with the Addict, and she was talking about being on the treadmill. You remember that? And doing a prayer walk on the treadmill, and her idiot addict husband comes breaking in the door, and she was praying for kindness for him. I learned a lot from that.
Yeah.
You know,
because what would have been your first reaction, Brett? I mean, let's be man to man here.
I'd have busted his chops, dude.
Okay.
I'd have punched him right in the nose. Done something. I mean, laid him out.
Yep.
She showed compassion.
Yeah, that's not the physical part of it is not always the best approach, is it? Sometimes it is.
You know what I learned from her too was she is very, very talented. She is very, very, very successful at what she does. And that just goes to show no matter who you are, you can get in the ditch with an addict and not know, or know or not know, but she was in the ditch with this guy. Yet she's so successful and so awesome. It could happen to anyone.
Well, she unbridled herself from that burden. She unchained her life from that. I mean, you want people in your lives that are willing to paddle when the motor doesn't run and not just be an anchor. Yeah. That idea of being an anchor when you're trying to get from point A to point B in the boat, you don't necessarily need the anchor right away.
Yeah, that's true. I thought she was a neat lady. She's written like 9 books. She didn't say that, but she's written a bunch of books.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of books, I got this in the mail this week. John Patterson. Man, I'll tell you right now that this, and I told him this online or when we were talking to him, it brought up a whole bunch of emotions because my kid was on the same path as this guy, and he had success, and I'm telling you, he lays it all out. He's not shy about telling the truth, which I think is important, not only for him, but for us to benefit from him. My granddad used to tell me all the time that you don't have to eat dirt to know it tastes bad. And then he bought me a box of toothpicks for a birthday one year, knowing that I would be eating dirt most of my life. And that was kind of our symbolic gesture to each other. But John Patterson, to a man, is pretty awesome guy. And you talk about pulling somebody up pulling themselves up by the bootstraps and walking. He
did a good job writing his book too. I read it, and he does a good job telling the story compared to what he's written. I thought he was a cool dude.
Yeah,
I think he's going to make a difference in a lot of people's lives. He needs to get out there. He's living in a small town, but he needs to get out there and get on a speaking tour and tell a story more, so he can help a lot of good people.
Well, if I could tell anybody on any of our listeners, I'd recommend anything. All of our guests have been great, and I think I told you this once before. This is kind of akin to when I was teaching the adult Sunday school class at church. I feel like I learn more by preparing and listening to others' commentary than I do giving that back to the crowd. And this was one of those things. And if I could recommend anything to our listening audience, buy this book. It's a simple read. Uh, I started it and was finished with it in less than a day, and I started reading it again. And I'm already 40 pages in, and I've been just piecemealing it in between breaks and job sites, and I'm finding things that I didn't see the first time. But what a quality guy, and I hope for the best for him. I have friends that are addicts, and I know that the pitfalls and the pratfalls that are out there, and I pray with every fiber in my being that he can stay on track, because
I do too.
his addiction was more than just physical; it was a mental thing,
Yeah.
and
He's real smart though, dude. Remember he talked about pitching and
right,
the 3 milliliter difference in the strike zone,
yeah,
and what's going on in his head is cerebral. And there's a disconnect with his heart, with his head. And if he gets that all lit up like a
yep,
firecracker, dude, it's gonna blow. He's gonna be
yep.
awesome.
And I think that metaphor, if you will, works. I mean, it's all of us. We're within millimeters of success, and we're from millimeters from danger, and we're millimeters from failure. And even in how our paths cross, and how we came, even how I came to know you, it was a pure accident. And I'll be, now that it's been some distance away, I was thrown into the fire because the person that I was working for at the time just didn't feel like going down and, dealing with this guy. That's basically what it was.
Hey,
And
did you heard that before about me?
you know why I figured it out a long time ago. I figured out the reason why they don't want to deal with this guy, you in particular, is because you're straightforward, you're honest, and that scares the crap out of people.
Yeah.
They don't know how to handle someone who's very direct, and they think that that's a lack of compassion or something. But I'm very direct too, and I may not be. It's like my granddad said too. You can beat him with a hammer, you can beat him with a feather. Oh, well, we need to give you a velvet hammer so you can lighten your beating. And I probably need a more steely hammer, because I tend to beat people with a feather. But I couldn't have been more fortunate to meet someone like you.
Well,
Never thinking that I would ever need a lawyer. But
Carcass, you never needed a lawyer. You've always got it figured out. Hey,
but
Carcass,
all my friends needed a lawyer.
Carcass,
Yes, sir.
we had the Reverend on as a guest.
Yeah, I know.
That's right.
The round table.
Then y'all couldn't get rid of me.
We can't get rid of Reverend.
I went out of town on a little vacation here and there, and other than that, y'all hadn't been able to get me out of your lives now.
Well, tell us about the show with Debbie Lee and what we walked away with and what we learned.
Well, I have a special place in my heart for Debbie Lee, and I mentioned on the show before I met Debbie, and actually I read about her. I was reading Chris Kyle's book, The American Sniper,
Yeah.
and towards the end of his book, he mentions Debbie Lee, and Chris was on the same team with Debbie's son, Mark Lee. He was the first Navy SEAL killed over in Iraq, and he was talking about this lady that had a great outreach to Gold Star families and veterans and their families, and that make a long story short, that's not really why I got in touch with her, and then we had a retreat out at a wonderful place called Lasso Ranch in East Texas. Had a number of Gold Star families come out there. At that time, the governor of Texas, Governor Perry, he came out. No press, no fanfare, just to love on these families, and that was the beginning of a retreat that we've had out there every year, in some years two per year. But Debbie, she's a lady that she wasn't a public speaker. She wasn't used to being in the limelight, and she had a great son who was a true war hero that was killed, and his death got a lot of attention, because back when Mark died, we weren't losing a lot of our Navy SEALs. It was kind of a jolt when that happened, and she could have chosen to kind of curl up in a ball and never really get over that. Instead, she took his life and she took what he stood for, and she's made a huge difference. And I said hundreds. I think you could say thousands of lives, and still at it. So
Well,
uh,
she had us all in tears, didn't she? When she talked about her son standing up to protect the wounded that he was protecting, the
yeah,
wounded soldier, and took the bullet for him. What a
yeah,
choice. I wonder how
yeah.
many people would make that choice.
Tell you what, it's. You'd like to think that you would. I don't know if you ever know, until you're in that situation. But those guys, I mean, our Navy SEALs, they're bad to the bone, man. They are trained to do that very thing,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's pretty amazing. And but again, the great thing about Mark, I mean, he was a warrior. He was a warrior in the true sense, but he was also a Christ follower, and he had a huge heart for not only his buddies who he sacrificed his life for, but really for all of us.
Well, that was cool because he made the choice to take a bullet for a guy, and then he was also making a choice to send a letter back to Mama about, can you share kindness with everybody and tell everyone to be kind to each other while we're over here fighting? I mean, what an extraordinary man! And for
Yeah.
her to talk about the impact on Gold Star families that she's had and the difference that she's made, she's a killer lady. She's a killer.
She is. She's definitely the mama of a Navy SEAL. If you want to know what that looks like, well, take a look at Debbie Lee.
It's Debbie Lee, Mama
Yeah,
Lee.
Mama Lee.
So, Carcass, tell us about our show that we had with Tanner.
Oh yeah, I mean, Tanner is a unique guy. He's a guy trying to find it. Honestly, he was a rudderless ship. Super talented guy. Um, and once again, you get a sense about people when you're around them. And I go to a lot of shows. I mean, Steph and I probably see 40 shows a year, maybe sometimes more, just depending on who's touring and who we like to go see and what we can afford. And that's, I think that's why we like the local scene so much, because it's typically $10 to $12 to get in instead of $1,200 to get in. So we meet a lot of people on the ground level of the music scene, and Tanner was one of those people. And I remember, like I said, this must have been back in '06 or '07, and the band itself had a huge impact on me, because I thought these guys are, you can tell, and normally, not to stigmatize anybody, but the bands from California, not only were the people, the bands from California were always well practiced and really good, and they always seemed to have something that the other bands from other places didn't, including the willingness to go out and take the leap and to go out on tour. And you might play for 2 people one night and 200 the next, but Tanner was willing to, he and his band were willing to do that, and they left a lasting impression. And when I circled back around and he was on the metal roundtable with me, and Rob Colwell, uh, I thought, man, I know this guy from somewhere. And sure enough, I had the CD that I'd purchased directly from him, and he said, "You're the guy that bought everything on the table." And I said, "Yes." So not only did he make an impression on me, but just by being kind, knowing what a struggling band does out on the road, having driven bands and been in the business a little bit. I mean, buying one shirt may help pay for a tank of gas, which gets you to the next city, which helps you sell another shirt. And that's the day-to-day struggle it is. And so, but he was kind of a rudderless ship, and sometimes, the powers that be knock you upside the head and get your attention. And this injury to his hand really stopped him down for just a minute. and he started prioritizing things in his life and figuring out what happens if I can never play guitar again. And it forced his mind into a different, and I say a better place. In fact, if he were here, he would say, yes, it put me in a better place. And as tragic as it is, the fact that he'll never play guitar again is tragic, but his music still lives on. And now he's found a niche. And I don't know if you've watched some of those videos, but they're pretty cool and they have an interesting perspective. So
Carcass.
I'm inspired by that guy.
Carcass. Don't you remember when he was talking? Were you on, Reverend? Were you on the show that night?
No, I wasn't. I was not.
Dude, he was talking about laying in bed after and doing videos. He knew he needed to get out of the metal
Scene
because of the players he was around were bad people. And he was talking about laying in bed, and he talked about how he felt this energy just go from head to toe. And out of nowhere, he said, dude, that was God, man. That was God. And he was talking about how he found God and it changed his life.
Wow.
Changed the way he lived his life, changed the way he worked, changed the way everything happened. And he got rid of the bad people in his life. That was amazing. That came from nowhere.
No, that came from nowhere. And that's and when you and I talked about bringing him on, I mean, I was just going to let him roll with it because it's his story. I know the guy, but it's his story, and I let him tell it in his own form and his own fashion. And yeah, that was, and he and I had a very direct, poignant discussion about the idea of a spiritual being and someone bigger than all of us in charge, etc. And that was a foreign concept to him. He had never heard of. I don't know that he was atheist as much as he was agnostic, where he just didn't know. But you know, a man cannot be saved in ignorance, as they say, and he had. I think it's a blessing to have seen the light, so to speak, in such a physical, dramatic way. I think having been walking the walk, you know, my Christian walk started when I was a young man, a young child. I mean, my parents were steeped in church, and we always went, and I always had that guidance, and it seemed like I always had that to fall back on. And as I circled around in my life looking for my way, it seems like I always found the iron rod, which is the word, and it always kept me on the path. And I think we sort of lose perspective of to what that feeling is. And I'm not suggesting we go out and go off the rails and let go of our direction, but sometimes circling back to it gives us a better perspective. And so it was interesting to hear his immediate and, as Brett said, very dramatic realization that there was something bigger than what he was used to seeing. So, and he's still in the infant stages of his spiritual growth, but you know, there's no all at once in life, and there's certainly no all at once in your beliefs. And as you learn and grow, they just get stronger and stronger. But you got to exercise faith, and you have to stay on point, or otherwise, just like my daughter would be careful to tell you, you don't exercise, you're going to get weak. And sometimes you have to lift more than you can to see where you're at. So
that's awesome.
That's right. It's a daily exercise, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we had my daughter on the show.
She was awesome, by the way. She obviously she's come from goodly parents, as they say in the scriptures.
Diddy, you know my
yeah,
daughter.
I was away for that too. I was tuning in. I'm like, that can't be Brett's daughter. Somebody did a bait and switch there.
I learned a lot having her on the show to see how independently strong she is, and I like the antitrust button she has in her heart. Just, you got to earn it. You got to earn her trust. You got to earn her friendship. And I thought that was pretty cool.
I think that's helped protect her, Brett. I think that skepticism in mankind in general, so to speak, where she
Yeah,
just doesn't trust everybody. I
yeah,
mean, I'll be honest with you, my daughter was more apt to trust everybody because she was in a loving, kind home, and she just figured that the rest of the world was like that too, and just different personality. But she came to learn that you can't do that. And
yeah,
fortunately, your daughter didn't have to experience too much of the bad in order to understand the good.
yeah.
I,
Well,
guys, I have two daughters, and they're in their 30s now. But what I love is that they're both very strong. They're very strong willed, and I think you got to have that these days.
dude, I saw a picture I think today posted on Facebook or something of all the girls in the on y'all's trip up or somewhere, and I was
Yes.
like, dude, they do look strong. They're like, you know, they're incredibly smart, right?
Yeah,
Thank
and they
God
they
Sune had that going on.
and they're sweet. They're sweet, but they don't laugh at daddy jokes. I mean, they're pretty
No,
serious. They're not. You're going to have to earn. You're going to have to earn some things from them.
yeah,
Don't get a cheap laugh.
I like that. So in the future, we got cool shows coming. I want to share with our audience. You know, we've learned what we're doing after 20 episodes, and we've learned from our feedback that we've had from everybody that people like good guests, right? Not just guests, they want good guests. So Carcass is working on getting Steve Young, all pro quarterback. I'm bringing some of my players on. Parrish, Cox, all pro cornerback, uh, really cool dude. He's going to come on our show. I got some other players. I want to bring the range of players in here. And there's a guy, Randy Grimes. I'm going to bring him in. He's a former NFL player that's recovered, and he has an organization for recovered athletes. So we're going to bring him on the show. And
Super.
I'm going to show y'all how strong God is because I prayed about this. I want Stevie Nicks to come on our show. And I worked on that last week. And I hadn't pulled it off yet, but I found the right person who's going to pull it off because I want her to come in here and talk about. She sent a tweet about how girls get on the MTV and thrust their bodies because they're not talented enough. So they have to throw themselves at the camera instead of using their artistic gifts. I like that, man. I want to bring her on the show. It's going to happen.
Okay.
All right.
You heard it here.
You heard it
Denny,
here.
Denny, I know somebody that knows Jewel.
Well, hey, come on, let's make that happen. Yeah, I got to get busy. You guys are ahead of me right now. I'll catch you. I got some in mind, but I'm not going to mention them yet.
Uh-oh.
You got to pay to play. Hey, you know what?
Well,
Guy's going to put on this show who he wants to be on this show.
yeah,
And as long as one person learns, and that includes me, then we're headed the right direction. Don't y'all agree?
that's right.
What else y'all want to reflect on here real quick? We're going to finish the show a little early tonight.
Well, I was looking back on my notes, and back in July, we talked about loving one another. And I don't know that when, the old adage, love one another as I have loved you, I don't know that there's any stipulation on who we're supposed to appreciate and who we're supposed to love. We're supposed to love everyone, right?
That's right.
So that involves a choice of.
Oh, here comes Carcass again with that 5 people he has on that hand that he trusts.
That's right. And I started number 6 over here.
Oh no, heck no.
Well, you know,
I got the Reverend.
you know
Carcass.
what
done.
finger you are. You know what finger you are in this hand. You know, and we're trying to keep this PG at best.
Yes.
But
you PG that.
But you know what? That show got to me too, where we talked about because
cultivate kindness.
You cultivate kindness, but like George Thorogood used to say, "Who do you love?"
Yeah.
Well, we're supposed to love everybody, and that's hard to do. And once
Oh, yeah.
again, I feel like we're learning more, or at least I'm learning more than I'm instructing, because that really made me think. And I had situations. It's strange how you talk about a subject like that, and then the rest of the week or moving forward into that month, I had lots and lots of chances to really not like somebody, or to really appreciate somebody, and the weird balance that is. And I think there's a difference between loving and showing kindness and disliking or liking somebody.
Carcass?
Yeah.
No, Denny, Reverend. You
Yes,
got to
sir.
work on my heart, because I think Carcass is full of it when he starts talking about the 5 people he trusts.
Well,
No,
I would say
You know
this.
what? I
like,
got 5 people I'll take to the train station. How about that?
well, you find out, the longer you live, the people you can really trust, really rely upon. I mean, it's a small
Yeah.
number, right? I have a very dear friend that I've heard say a number of times that you've never locked eyes with anyone that God doesn't love, and that's one I do struggle with. I mean, I will tell you, I'm like, wow, really? But it is a fact. And kind of hand in hand with that is the whole forgiveness thing. Forgiveness, can be tough, right? I mean, we kind of like to hang on to a bit of anger and bitterness, and it's really all about us. I mean, we forgive, we relieve ourselves. If we don't, it's on us.
The Greeks say you're dead to me. When they say you're dead to me, they mean it. I guess that's their way of forgiving. I don't
Maybe.
know.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to think on that one.
Bridling themselves.
Yeah.
Like, I never have to talk to you again. You're dead to me.
Yeah, and you don't have to like.
Used to say that.
Right.
He's
Yeah.
dead to
You don't
me.
have to
He's
like
dead to me.
somebody. And I don't have to hang out with you. I don't.
No, but you can forgive me, but don't forget.
Right. Exactly.
Hey, we got to give a shout out to Mark too, our producer. He's a cool dude. He's been
Yes,
fighting
he is.
cancer. We need to keep him in our prayers.
Absolutely.
We're going to do this. Our slogan tonight is coming from him. He likes to live life. Don't let life live you. Isn't that the truth? I think that captures the last 20 shows. Everything that our speakers always say is, live life, don't let life live you. Or Debbie Lee would have stayed in that bed.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And also,
good.
what my favorite quote, one of them is from John
What's that?
Patton. Remember, he goes, sometimes you.
I have it right here. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sometimes it rains. That's freaking awesome.
Love that.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Well, guys, I look forward to our future. I look forward to our shows. We're going to have great guests. We got some lined up that I talked about. And we got some really cool CEO of healthcare company coming next Tuesday. And
fantastic.
She's written cool books. She's got her own podcast, and we'll introduce her Tuesday night. But anyways, I don't want to bring any politicians on. I want this.
What? You don't want to bring any politicians
on this show?
Thank you.
The show's too good to ruin.
Thank you.
Politicians.
Then we will be able to keep it PG.
Yeah.
If you bring a politician on here, I have a feeling that one of us is gonna.
I'm so sick of hearing, if you don't do this or you don't give money for that, then this is going to happen. The threat donation. I'm so sick. And it's all, it's all about the people. Really? Anyways.
Yeah.
Don't get me on my box. I'll have to take every place.
You're not thumping the table tonight. Thank goodness.
Love you, bud.
Hey, y'all have a good night.
Yeah, take care.
Guys.
Have a good evening. See you.
Good night, everybody.
All
right.
Great.